So what I'm going to do is that we have our resident who is exam going, and he will be answering the questions. If there are any questions from the other PG students, you can just write in a chat, and then we'll answer those questions one by one. So this will be a dialogue between me and Dr. Vikas, who is our exam going students from here in MPUH. So Vikas, this is a 55 years old married male, is working in the bank, and he comes with a right flank pain of 1 month duration and hematuria for 10 days. His right flank, if I have to give you the details, is a dull aching, it's intermittent, non-radiating, and responding to analgesics with no aggravating relieving factors, and he has hematuria, 2 episodes of hematuria, gross, total, painless, associated with some clots. So this is a basic history that he has got a flank pain of 1 month and hematuria for 10 days. So now what is your thinking?
So he's 55-year-old male patient, sir. 55-year-old male patient.
Yeah, don't repeat. Just tell what things come in your mind and what other things you have to ask.
So patient with this kind of presentation, flank pain and hematuria, the differential diagnosis which are coming at this stage of in my mind is it can be a stone disease, right side renal stone disease it can be, and he's having painless hematuria with serpentine clots, which indicates
he has got a pain and he doesn't have lower tract symptoms, but he has got a right side flank pain.
Yes, sir. Flank pain with 2 episodes of hematuria.
Right.
Which is gross hematuria and painless hematuria. So it indicates there is a pathology in the upper tract, and it can be a upper tract malignancy. It can be renal mass or TCC, and at this stage the other differential can be, it can be a cystic disease of the kidney, which can present with the pain and hematuria, and it can be a
what
case
cystic disease?
It can be a simple cyst of the kidney or autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease, and it can be PUGO, pelvic junction obstruction. And
so you have to think of various causes, and then you ask history one by one as to what things you will ask in history. We are not asking differential diagnosis at this point of time.
Yes, sir.
But when patient comes in, you have to think something, and then you ask various important negative history.
Yes, sir.
So what things you will ask?
So by keeping these differential, I will ask, first of all, I will rule out the stone disease, whether there is any previous history of any lithuria is there or not, and any history of previous stone surgery is there or not, and sequelae of the stone, like whether patient is having any history of urinary tract infection, any fever is there or not, and the other thing which I want to rule out the malignancy, whether there is any history of anorexia, weight loss is there or not, and any history of pedal edema is there or not, any swelling, scrotal swelling in the body, any other any scrotal swelling, or I would like to ask whether there is any cough, hemoptysis, and back pain or bony pain is there or not. So for this history is for the malignancy, and I would also like to ask whether there is any history of renal any history of trauma is there or not.
What sort of trauma you are under asking?
So this is the, in this case, sir, patient is having pain since 30 days and hematuria since last 10 days. So it can be a minor trauma which can be missed by the patient, and PUGO with minor trauma can present with this kind of presentation, sir. And in
what else?
I would also like
what
to
other history you will
whether
ask?
there is any lower urinary tract symptoms is present or not.
Why you want to ask that?
Because if the patient with this kind of presentation, and if there are lower urinary tract symptoms are there, it can be a bladder malignancy also. Bladder malignancy can present with the lower urinary tract symptoms and along with this kind of presentation.
Okay.
And I would also like to ask whether there is any previous history of tuberculosis is there or not, any contact with the tuberculosis.
Okay.
And any features of CKD, whether there is any decreased urine output is there or not, oliguria is there or not.
Is it possible to have a stone? You said there is a stone you will keep in mind.
Yes, sir.
So why you are keeping stone in mind?
Because pain and hematuria, and the first differential, because stone is more common in our country, so that's why first differential will be the stone, sir.
Okay, so in a situation like this, let us come to differential diagnosis a little later.
Yes, sir.
But for all these students who have logged in, it is important that in a situation like this, in the exam, what you need to understand is that focus on what presenting symptoms are, ask the details about those presenting symptoms, and then you ask the details about what are the various possibilities that come in your mind and an important negative history. Like he has asked for the anorexia, vomiting, fever, weight loss. He has asked for the previous history of lithuria. He has asked for trauma. So like this, you need to ask various negative important history, which will give you the clue as to what are the possible diagnoses. So in this case, there is no lithuria, no previous instrumentation, no UTI or fever or dysuria, no cough, chest pain, no bony pain, no LUTS, no history of trauma, no history of anorexia, weight loss. Important thing is that on the blood thinners. Nowadays, patients, they take a lot of aspirin and sometimes they take the other anticoagulants. So that history is important because sometimes without any actual cause, when patient is on blood thinners, they can get hematuria or some other bleeding from other sides. So no history of tuberculosis, contact, nausea, vomiting, edema, all those things are there. No history of diabetes, hypertension. So there is nothing really great into the history except that he's a smoker. He's a chronic smoker for last 10 years. And this is the examination findings. Anything specific you want to see with this history in the examination?
Yes, sir. First of all, because patient is having history of hematuria, I want to see whether patient is vitally stable or not. And after that, I would like to see whether there is any pedal edema is there or not. On inspection, there is any scrotal swelling is there or not, or any fullness is.
Why you are asking scrotal swelling?
Because one of my differential is renal mass. It can be in cases of renal mass with IVC thrombus, there can be pedal edema and varicocele will be there, sir.
So which side? On the right side you will get this.
Yes,
he has got right side flank pain.
Yes, sir.
So do you get the right varicocele if there is a right renal mass?
Yes, sir. If the renal mass with the if the thrombus is in the IVC, inferior vena cava, at the ostium of the gonadal vein, large thrombus is there. In that case, there can be varicocele on the right side, sir.
So if there is a IVC is completely blocking by the thrombus, then you can get the varicocele. Okay. What else you want to specifically check?
I want to see whether there is any on palpation there is any mass is palpable in the kidney or not, because one of my differential was cystic disease of the kidney, and I also want to whether there is bladder is palpable or not, and the means I would like to see all these things, sir.
Okay, so on examination there is nothing. DRE is normal, no palpable lump, kidney bladder not palpable, prostate is normal, he is a 55 years old male. So everything is fine.
Yes, sir.
So now is the time for you to tell the differential diagnosis.
Yes, sir.
Now you tell in this order of priority, you have examined the patient.
Yes, sir.
You have seen there is no pallor, blood pressure, everything is fine, and no scrotal edema, no pedal edema, nothing. He is quite well built, no comorbidities, nothing. He is absolutely fit person.
Yes, sir. So after history, my differential diagnosis will be the first differential again will be the same, that is stone disease, right side renal stone disease, and second differential is because it is associated with serpentine clots, it is the upper tract malignancy. It can be RCC or TCC, and on palpation there is no disease, no mass is palpable, so ADPKD is ruled out, but cystic disease of the kidney can present like this. And
so if there is no palpable mass, do you rule out polycystic kidney?
Yes, sir. Usually at the age of 55 year, in the polycystic kidney disease, usually in 87% of patients, it is palpable lump. That is palpable.
So why you say that 55 years it is palpable lump?
In cases of autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease, the kidneys are enlarged in size, and there should be some palpable lump.
Why you say 55 years so it should be palpable?
Because
so if they come early there is no palpable, if they come late it is palpable. Is it like that?
Because, sir, at the age of in autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease, type 1 polycystic, it is type 1, 2 and 3. In type 1, 100% of the patient get cysts at the age of 40 years. Up to if the patient not develop any cyst after the age of 40 years, it indicates he escapes the ADPKD. And in type 2, up to 45 years, these patients get developed cyst in the kidney. So if at the age of 55 year, if it is not palpable, it indicates there is no autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease.
No, it is not like that. It all depends on how many cysts are there, how much is the severity. Every polycystic kidney at 55 years does not mean that they have to be big, palpable, huge kidneys. There are many patients, even at this age, their creatinine may be normal, and you will find that there are multiple cysts. It all depends on how much is the severity of the polycystic kidney, and depending on that, you will get the enlargement of kidney. So it is
Okay,
not mandatory that if you have no palpable kidneys, that means you rule out polycystic kidney. It is not like that.
okay, sir.
Okay. So what else?
It can be a PUJ with the minor trivial trauma which can be missed by the patient. In that, the presentation will be like that, sir.
So you want to still in differential keep stone, you want to keep polycystic kidney, you want to keep RCC, you want to keep TCC, you want to keep PUJO with trauma.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What about the day before yesterday we had the discussion about the angiomyolipoma. Is it possible that
Yes, sir.
these are the features of angiomyolipoma, bleeding?
Yes, sir. It is my differential is upper tract pathology. It can be angiomyolipoma, which can present with the pain and hematuria like that.
So
sir.
you have to see in a 55 years, that also you have to keep the possibility
Yes, sir.
that there could be a significant size angiomyolipoma and which has bled.
Yes, sir.
Which has bled, and therefore it has given rise to hematuria and it has got a pain.
Yes, sir.
So that also possibility you have to keep. Any other possibility
My
with the hematuria and pain?
Yes, sir. Genitourinary tuberculosis patient can present with this kind of presentation, but patient is having no any past history of tuberculosis.
Not necessary that you have to have past history of tuberculosis.
Yes, sir.
How GU tuberculosis will present with a pain and hematuria?
So in cases,
Why is there is hematuria in GU tuberculosis?
so GUTB is it is the sir basically the hematogenous spread. Usually the
No. My question
Yes,
is
sir.
very specific.
Yes, sir.
Why at all there is a hematuria in a case of a genitourinary tuberculosis?
So in cases of GUTB, there is formation of granuloma formation, which is initially occur in the cortex region, and when these granulomas get, enlarge in size and they get ruptured into the medulla and the PCS, when they infiltrate into the PCS, at that time patient get the symptoms of hematuria. Sir.
Okay, that is one.
Yes,
Anything else? No, hematuria, there are hundreds of reasons in GU tuberculosis.
Yes, sir.
One of the reason you have said, which is acceptable, it is all right. You mean to say if there is no kidney tuberculosis, that means there is not hematuria? Quite often you have seen that the patient's upper tracts are normal and still you diagnose GU tuberculosis and they present with hematuria.
Like in this case, sir, patient is not having any lower urinary
No,
tract
I'm
symptoms.
just asking you question.
Yes, sir.
Give the causes of reasons of hematuria in a case of a GU tuberculosis. One reason you have given which is acceptable.
Yes, sir.
Any other reason you know of?
It can be bleeding from the bladder, sir. Tubercles in the bladder that can cause hematuria.
Bleeding from the bladder. Tubercle means what? Why should tubercle bleed?
Because in GUTB, there is formation of granuloma followed by tubercles in the bladder. So if the
Yes.
patient holds the urine for a prolonged duration of time, and in that case there can be hematuria, sir.
So if they hold urine, then only you will get hematuria? No, see, there are various reasons why you will get so at the end you summarize. I think what we'll do, there are a lot of questions which are coming up. What we'll do is that once we finish the discussion, we will take all those questions one by one because it's difficult to see the questions in between the when the discussion is going on. So coming back to the discussion, now this question can be asked in exam as to give the reasons why there could be hematuria. First and foremost, the hematuria can be, as he said, because there is a erosion of the calyceal wall and that causes bleeding. So that is very common. As he said that there could be rupture of the destructed kidney. It can cause hematuria. The tuberculosis can cause ulcerations on the callosial wall, and that can bleed because ulceration can cause erosion of the underlying vessels, and then they can start severe bleeding. Thirdly, all these ulcerations and the destruction can be in any part of the kidney. It can be in the pelvis, it can be in the upper ureter, it can be anywhere. So ulceration, erosion anywhere in the PC system can cause hematuria, and that can be because of the tuberculosis. Coming back to the bladder, now bladder, there are various reasons why it can cause hematuria. One is that when there is an acute infection of because of the tuberculosis, there is a lot of congestion in the bladder. Whenever there is a congestion, there is always possibility of hematuria, because congestion causes the capillaries to be present in the subepithelial region, and then they can rupture anytime and cause hematuria. Similarly, in tuberculosis, you can have ulcerations, and therefore it can cause hematuria. If you see the cystoscopy of tuberculosis, quite often you will see that the whole bladder actually is destroyed, the mucosa is completely necrosed, infected, and it is not a normal identifiable mucosa. It is very unhealthy urothelium. When you have such type of urothelium, it touches even on it can bleed even on touch, and therefore simple passage of urine itself is enough for that mucosa to cause irritation and cause bleeding. Now, genitourinary tuberculosis can affect prostate, and that can also cause hematuria. So there are several reasons by which tuberculous affection in the GU system can cause hematuria. So that you have to keep in mind. Okay. So what else you said? You said tuberculosis. You said angiomyolipoma. You said all these things. Now, which other things you will keep in mind?
Particularly in this patient, sir, because there is no history of any lower urinary tract symptoms. So
Can it be the pseudoaneurysm in the kidney, which has ruptured and caused hematuria, 2 episodes of hematuria with a flank pain?
So patient is no history of any trauma, sir, and no history of any previous
Pseudoaneurysm
instrumental.
can be because of not only because of trauma, it can be idiopathic, it can be because of any other reason. Quite often you will see the vascular malformations without any previous reason. Now, if they bleed intermittently, it can cause hematuria. Similarly, if the malformation is at the edge of the surface of the kidney, it can bleed outside, can cause subcapsular hematoma and the hematuria, and that can present like that. So all these causes you have to keep in mind. These are all rare causes, but nevertheless it can be fitted into this young healthy man who has come with hematuria.
Yes.
All right. So now with this diagnosis in mind, what investigations you will do?
So I will proceed with the blood investigations, complete blood count, hemoglobin, total counts, platelets, and serum creatinine.
Okay. So you want to see hemoglobin.
Yes, sir.
You want to see platelet.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And want to see the creatinine of this patient and urine routine.
Urine routine microscopy, creatinine.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I will see these reports and then further plan my investigation, and followed by ultrasound whole abdomen. I want to
So
see.
what do you expect in these reports? They are unlikely to show anything. No?
So hemoglobin
So this is all hemoglobin is 13. What does this indicate?
hemoglobin is 13. That is only it indicates that the patient is having 2 episodes of hematuria is there, but there is not much significant.
So it's not such a severe blood loss which he has undergone.
Yes,
Hemoglobin is quite all right.
Yes, sir.
It also shows that there is no infection.
Yes, sir.
It shows 80 to 90 RBCs,
RBCs.
which shows that there is still microscopic hematuria going on.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then
So at this stage, I want to do ultrasound abdomen, whole abdomen, sir.
why you don't want to do urinary cytology? You said that there is a TCC is one of your diagnoses.
Yes, sir. So Sir, I want to see the ultrasound whole abdomen, because if ultrasound is suggestive of any clear-cut stone disease is there or any renal mass is there, in that case we can skip the urine cytology. But if the ultrasound report is not suggestive of any this pathology, in that case we can proceed with cytology because it is non-invasive test. So I want to see first whether there is any stone or any mass in the upper pole, middle pole or lower pole of the kidney.
Okay, so you want to see ultrasonography.
Yes, sir.
All right, ultrasonography is left kidney normal in size, shape normal, right side kidney 11.5 by 4.5, and there is a mass lesion in the right kidney involving mid and lower pole of the kidney. Bladder is normal, rest of the viscera normal.
Yes, sir.
All right, so now this is what is the
Yes, sir.
so ultrasound obviously is now showing pathology.
Yes, sir.
So what next you want to do? What do you think is the pathology?
So it is the mass in the middle and the lower pole of the kidney, sir. So it indicates it is a TCC can be ruled out in this, and it is a renal mass pathology, and there is no stone in the kidney. So it indicates that there is a renal mass. I want to see whether this mass is whether it is solid or cystic, and it is mixed echogenicity lesion, and whether it is exophytic or endophytic. So,
Okay.
yes, sir. I want to know.
So it is partly mid and lower pole. That means it is partly exophytic, partly endophytic,
Yes, sir.
and it is 6.2 by 5.4. What else you want to see? Suppose if there is a mass in the kidney and you are given this report,
Yes, sir.
what is your interest in knowing in sonography further details? Because obviously now with normal creatine you are going to do CT scan.
Yes,
I mean
sir.
there is nothing.
Yes, sir.
But still on sonography, what else you want to know?
So first of all, I want to see whether this mass is solid or cystic. Because if the then followed by mixed echogenicity is mentioned, because if it is hyperechogenic then it can be angiomyolipoma, and if it is mixed echogenicity, isoechogenic or hypoechogenic, then differential would be renal cell carcinoma. And then I want to see whether there is homogeneous or heterogeneous, which whether there is any calcification is there or not, because if calcification is there, most likely it is RCC which present with the calcification, and whether there is any infiltration, whether there is involvement of the pelvis is there or not.
In ultrasonography, you have to get the idea as to where is the kidney which is looking normal. I mean, obviously CT scan is going to give you all this, but when you are doing ultrasonography yourself, you want to know in various planes how much is the renal parenchyma which is present, which is appearing normal. That is one. Secondly, how is the margin? See now, obviously with this ultrasound finding, you are in your mind, you are almost certain that this is some malignancy in the kidney.
Yes,
So now obviously your thinking has to be from that point of view, as whether it is really a well-defined mass is present on the sonography or not, because sonography you are doing yourself. So all these things you want to find out.
yes, sir.
So next, what you want to do?
So in this case, sir, I would like to proceed with CCT abdomen and pelvis.
CCT abdomen and pelvis. What do you mean by CCT abdomen pelvis?
So the mass is in the middle and the lower pole of the kidney. I want to do IV contrast in this patient and want to see the status of the kidney, bladder and the other viscera also. So CCT abdomen and pelvis to rule out the other pathology in the other organ also.
Oh, CCT, see, you are not very specific at all. Now this is not a question which can be accepted in exam. When you are asked what sort of CT scan you will do, you have to be very specific. CCT abdomen pelvis means what?
So it is.
Do you want to give oral contrast or IV contrast?
It is, sir, contrast enhancement CT scan in because pathology is in the kidney, and so in the cases of kidney we can give only IV contrast. There is no need of oral contrast because the oral contrast is given in the cases of where we want to see the lymph node, like in the pelvic malignancy. But in the cases of RCC, the lymph node which are involved is the hilar lymph node, and at that side there is no confusion with the bowel. So
Okay.
So in the cases of RCC, I am interested only in the IV contrast. There is no need of oral contrast.
So in a mass like this, which is quite a big mass,
Yes,
which
sir.
is mid and lower pole of the kidney,
Yes, sir.
what part of bowel can get affected?
So it is the right side mass, sir. Right side, on the right side, because it can be involve the second part of the duodenum.
Second part of duodenum is at the hilum. This is a mass which is on the mid and lower pole.
Yes, sir.
So at the mid and lower pole, you don't get duodenum.
Then ascending colon, sir.
Ascending colon is still higher up. You see, if you visualize your kidney, what actually gets affected, and when you say ascending colon, what part of ascending colon? See, in exam, this is a very important question. When you have a big mass in the kidney, lower polar mass, especially a big lower polar mass, anterior located mass, then it affects the mesentery.
Mesentery, yes, sir.
Quite often the mesentery gets affected rather than the bowel actual gets affected, because bowel is splenic flexure and the hepatic flexure. They are little higher up. But when the mass extends, when it starts infiltrating to the outside structures, the mesentery gets affected, the peritoneum gets covered. Even if it is not infiltrated, quite often it becomes thickened, indurated, and sometimes it is difficult to get the plane. And therefore, sometimes if the mass is big, if it is palpable, it is good idea to do oral contrast, because you also want to see if there is any affection of the intestinal mucosa or not. Sometimes the colon can get affected if the mass is very big, palpable. In that case, it is a good idea to give additional oral contrast, so that you can have the contrast combination of intestine as well as the thing, so that you can definitely find out if there is any infiltration in the bowel, either the splenic flexure, hepatic flexure or not. What else you want to see in the CT scan?
So first of all, in CT scan, sir, I would like to see what is the exact size of the mass, what is the exact location of the mass, and whether what is the
see
enhancement.
this CT scan and then tell your answer. This is the plate. This is the transverse scan.
Yes, sir.
Look at this here. This is the mass.
Yes, sir.
You can see here. This is the right side kidney. This is the mass.
Yes, sir.
You
So-
see here what is happening?
Yes, sir, it is
Can
the
you see here?
Yes,
That
sir.
mass is actually anterior located. You can see here.
Yes, sir, anteriorly located.
And if you don't give proper contrast, then you don't know whether the structures actually are overlying or they are all affected, infiltrated.
Okay, sir.
See now how the mass is going.
Yes, sir. So, yes, sir. So in the plane image, there is exophytic mass is seen on the
No,
anterior.
you have to see all the plates and give your answer. We are not here to ask you plate by plate, you describe.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So left side is normal. This is the mass.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So
So,
what is your interpretation?
so this is the contrast enhancement CT scan, which is showing in the plane images. There is exophytic mass is seen on the right side of the kidney. That is exophytic, more likely exophytic mass. And on plane images, I want to see what is the HU, sir. What is the enhancement in the plane images? And
Okay. So you want to see enhancement.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Then in arterial phase, there is an heterogeneous enhancing mass is seen with the heterogeneously enhancing mass, that is exophytic mass is seen. And I also want to see what is the enhancement in the arterial phase. And on venous images, there is left side renal vein is normal and IVC is seen, and there is no clear-cut evidence of thrombus is seen on the right side renal vein, and left side kidney is normal, there is no stone, and on right side there is mass in the middle and the upper pole of the kidney. So I want to see what is the enhancement, sir.
Okay. What do you think enhancement is?
So on
Why you
arterial,
want to see? If
So-
this is a plane,
Yes, sir.
and if this is a this, what do you think enhancement is? Why you want to measure the actual figures?
actual figures actually in the RCC, if it is more than 15 HU enhancement, it clear cut indicates it is a renal cell carcinoma.
So
but
here you can see
yes, sir.
yourself. Now
But-
you see if this is a plane
Yes, sir.
and if this is the post IV contrast,
Yes, sir.
it is glaring that it is severely enhancing it at places. It is as much enhancing as kidney as compared to the normal thing.
Yes, sir. The only idea is to preoperatively we can get some rough idea, because if it is a clear cell carcinoma, that is hypervascular tumor. In that condition, enhancement will be very high. But in cases of papillary RCC, that is hypovascular tumor. In that condition, enhancement will be less. So that to get the rough idea, sir. Otherwise, if enhancement is
So are you happy with this CT scan?
so liver
Have
cuts
you got all the information? The liver cut is there.
Yes, sir. Liver is also, there is no pathologies there. And so I also want to know, sir, whether there is any sinus infiltration is there or not. And by looking this image, it indicates that there is infiltration of the PCS is there. But I want to see the sinus, whether there is sinus is invaded by the mass or not. That in the axial cuts.
What do you mean by sinus infiltration?
Because if the sinus involvement is there, it indicates it is a T3A staging.
So how do you check that in the CT scan? How do you say that yes, sinus is infiltrated?
So in the serial axial cuts, we can see the perinephric fat stranding around the sinuses, sir.
Perinephric?
I mean to say perisinus.
There is nothing perinephric.
Perisinus fat stranding, sir.
Perisinus fat stranding?
Yes,
what do you mean by that?
That I will confirm with my radiologist. It is difficult for me to see on the cuts.
No, you have to know. If you are saying that I want to know whether sinus is infiltrated or not, what are the changes which take place? Then you can say that there is a sinus infiltration, because you said that it is very important to know that.
The changes which are occur in sinus invasion is, sir, first of all, there will be perisinus fat stranding will be there on the CT, which is the one thing. And other features.
What is a renal sinus consist of? What are the structures in the renal sinus?
In the renal sinus.
What is sinus? Where is the sinus?
That is in the medulla. It is the
medulla. Sinus is medulla.
So these are the column of Burton, sir.
So sinus is column of Burton.
In the sinus, there is fat is there and vessels is there.
So where is that sinus?
So if we see the anatomy, first there is cortex, then in the medulla there is sinus, and then it
sinus is the potential space which is actually present inside the kidney, outside the pelvic-callaceral system. So there is a potential space.
Yes, sir.
So this potential space normally is filled up by the fibrofatty tissue, loose areolar tissue, and the capillaries.
Yes,
so that's a normal sinus contents.
Yes,
so there is a fat, there is a fibrous tissue, there is a areolar tissue, and there are vessels. So when there is a infiltration, suppose the tumor is near the parenchyma, which is just abutting the sinus, then what you need to see in the CT scan is that whether there is a well-defined margin of the mass is present or not.
Okay.
Sometimes the sinus can be there can be a bulge in the sinus. That doesn't mean sinus is infiltrated.
Okay.
So how you will find out if there is any bulge in the sinus or infiltration in the sinus is that in an axial plate you have to see whether there is any irregularity of the margin at the sinus or not of the tumor capsule.
Okay, sir.
If the capsule is very smooth lined, that means it is just the bulge.
Okay.
You can still technically go ahead and do partial nephrectomy.
Okay.
But if there is any irregularity, if the sinus fat is the fat which is there, which can be identified on the CT scan, if that is replaced and that is invaded by the tumor, that means there is a invasion of the sinus fat. So in that case, you have to take the decision whether what surgery to be done.
Yes.
So this is a very important point, especially when the tumor is of such size.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Is it necessary to take the angiography plate?
So, so there is no. So if I am planning to do partial nephrectomy, in that case I need angiography, sir. In this renal mass, but it is a T1B renal mass, large renal mass.
No, T1B you come to know afterwards. No?
On ultrasound, sir, it is 6.5 centimeter around.
So ultrasound you decide whether angiography is to be taken or not, or just IV contrast.
So first of all, sir, ultrasound can give us some idea. If it is a very small exophytic mass, in that case I am planning to do partial nephrectomy. In that case there is no need of angiography. And but if it is a large mass, in that case also I can ask my radiologist. Basically angiography can detect better whether there is any vascular, whether there is any thrombus or not. So if the radiologist is saying that there is no thrombus in DCECT abdomen and pelvis, in that case we can skip the angio, sir.
So you mean to say the angiographic plate is only to see if there is any thrombus or not?
Vascular anatomy also, what is the vessel? So it is helpful in the partial nephrectomy cases, because what is the relation of the
But you said if it is a small mass partial nephrectomy, I don't need angiography.
Yes, sir. Small mass, if it is exophytic.
Obviously, you don't do partial nephrectomy in a big mass. It is only in small mass.
In small mass also, sir, we can skip the angiography if it is very small mass and it is say lower polar exophytic mass. In that case also we can skip the angiography, but it is a mass in the kidney, endophytic mass. In that case we need angiography, sir, because we want to know what is the relation of that mass with the vessels. Okay. And if I am planning to do radical, and in that case we can skip that, sir.
Okay. So this is a report.
It is well-defined lobulated soft tissue density lesion with exophytic component arising from mid-pole.
Go ahead.
Arising from the mid-pole of the kidney. Pre-contrast density is 26 HU and it is 6.6 into 5.7 centimeter in axial plane with cradiocaudal length measuring 52 mm. The lesion shows a few foci of calcification. Single renal arterial supply is noted, and post-contrast CT density is 140 HU, and there is no venous or IVC thrombus. So it is clear-cut 26 to 140 HU, and there is no thrombus.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So and other viscera are also normal. So it indicates it is a T1B tumor, and it is RCC because enhancement is there, and no thrombus. And lesion is infiltrating into the pelvic calyceal system, causes splaying of the calyces.
So what will you do in this case?
Yes, sir. In this case, because on that last CT image, which is suggestive of there is a mass which is towards the pelvis. So I will plan for radical nephrectomy, sir. In this case, it is difficult to.
Is it not a case for partial nephrectomy?
Partial nephrectomy, sir, first of all, it is a T1B mass. It is 6.7 centimeter, which is involving the middle pole and the upper pole of the kidney. If I plan to do partial nephrectomy in this case, there will be very less renal parenchyma, which is spared after the partial nephrectomy. So I will consider this patient for radical nephrectomy first. And second is...
So what is nephrometry score?
So nephrometric score is basically, renal nephrometric score is to know the complexity of the renal mass in the cases of partial nephrectomy. So it tells about
So you want to do nephrometry score in this case?
No, sir. There is no need of nephrometric score in this case because I am planning to do radical in this case.
Suppose if you wanted to do partial nephrectomy,
yes, sir.
Then how does nephrometry score help?
So nephrometric score just tell us what is the complexity of this mass. Whether the mass is complexity is less or high. So there are 5 parameters. What is the radius?
No, we don't want to know details.
Yes, sir.
In a patient where you have planned to do partial nephrectomy,
yes, sir.
What is the reason of doing nephrometry score? What do you mean by I want to know complexity of the mass?
So
complexity of the mass knowing is what is the help?
So if it is a very complex mass, say score is 10, 11, 12. There are score from 4 to 12 in the renal nephrometric score. If score is 4, 5, 6, it indicates low complexity. 7, 8, 9 is...
So what does it mean?
Yes, sir. It indicates if there is highly complex tumor. In that case, I will preoperatively counsel the patient that there are some chances that I can convert into the radical nephrectomy, and prior to that I will need, in that case, if it is high complexity, I will, proper planning is there. It can be a warm ischemia time will be more than 20 minutes. In that case, I will need proper CT angio in that condition. So complexity give us the idea. So about the warm ischemia time can be high in that case, and proper preoperative planning.
Okay. So you want to do radical nephrectomy in this
Yes,
case. What are the structures removed in radical nephrectomy in this case?
Yes, sir. So it is a middle and the upper polar renal mass. So radical nephrectomy is the removal of the kidney outside the by doing dissection outside the zerotas fascia along with the ureter and along with the lymph nodes which are coming along with the specimen. So I will remove all these structures, sir.
What about adrenal?
So according to the recent guidelines, there is no need of adrenal removal if there is no clear-cut involvement of the adrenal gland. If the fat planes are preserved between the renal mass and the adrenal, in that case we can spare the adrenal gland, and we can. There is no
What
need
about the ureter?
ureter is as much as possible. Ureter we can remove. There is no.
But there is a PC system infiltration.
Yes, sir. PC system infiltration is there, but we can remove the whatever is the feasible. We can remove the ureter.
So it doesn't make any difference if there is a pelvic cholesterol system is infiltrated or not. Suppose this tumor was big, invading the pelvis.
Yes, sir.
Then we don't want to remove the whole ureter.
So mass is rising from the because by looking this mass, it is rising from the middle pole and the upper pole of the kidney, and then it is causing, and there is high HU, which is likely it is a RCC, because in TCC cases there is
No, that is all right, even if it is RCC, but
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to tell you
Yes, sir.
that if RCC has invaded the pelvic cholesterol system,
Yes, sir.
it is a big mass, it has infiltrated the pelvis, it has come with gross recurrent hematuria.
Yes, sir.
So in that case, is it not necessary to
No, sir.
remove whole ureter?
No, sir, not
Why
necessary.
it is not necessary?
Because the idea is to remove the complete ureter, that is nephroureterectomy in cases of TCCs, because it is a field change disease, and RCC, it is the basic pathology in RCC is adenocarcinoma. So in adenocarcinoma there is no field change disease, so we can good if there is as much as ureter is possible. So there is no need, sir.
So once you see this sort of a CT scan, what metastatic workup you will do
So in
before
this,
going for surgery?
yes, sir. Before going for surgery, I will do liver function test of this patient. I want to after liver function test, I will do
Liver function for what?
liver function in cases of RCC, sir, because there is a term known as Stauffer syndrome, in which there is a non-metastatic infiltration of the liver, in which the liver alkaline phosphatase will be raised. So I want to do the
Non-metastatic infiltration of liver means what?
non-metastatic hepatic involvement in cases of renal cell
So
carcinoma.
what does it mean?
It indicates that patient is having some abnormality in the liver, like features of hepatitis, and jaundice can be there, and because
Is
of
it
the
because of metastasis?
non-metastatic, sir. It is non-metastatic hepatic dysfunction.
So that hepatic dysfunction I'm not asking.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not asking what are the paraneoplastic syndrome and what are the effects. I am asking you what is the metastatic workup you will do. You have seen the liver which is normal on CT scan.
I would, yes, sir. So,
Metastatic workup is a very clear-cut question.
so I will do chest X-ray in this case, sir.
Chest X-ray.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So if there is any abnormalities found in the chest X-ray, whether there is any pleural effusion or any suspicious lesion is there, in that case I will proceed with the CT chest, sir.
You want to proceed with CT chest.
If there is any abnormality in the chest.
So you always will do X-ray chest and then CT scan.
So there are indications if it is a T1 or if it is the mass is very large, or it is a
This
locally.
is a large mass.
So large mass is if it is more than 10 centimeters, sir, T2B. So if the staging is more than T2A, that is T2B, T3A, there is perinephric fat, there is involvement of thrombus is there. In that cases, we have to do the CT chest. Whether there is chest, straightforward we can do CT chest in that case. But if it is a T1B disease, we proceed with chest X-ray first. If the chest X-ray is normal, then we can proceed with the surgery.
Okay, so you want to do X-ray chest, you want to do liver you have already seen on the CT scan. What else you want to do metastatic workup, or that's enough?
If the patient is, I want to see the calcium also, sir, prior to the going for the surgery, because hypercalcemia is also a occurrence. And if calcium is abnormal, then
No, I'm not asking fitness for surgery.
Yes, sir.
I'm asking metastatic workup. Fitness is a different thing. You may do hundreds of things for fitness.
so on invest that is complete, sir. We can proceed for the surgery after taking the anesthesia fitness. We can
So where else RCC can metastatize?
the spread of the RCC is the hematogenous spread, sir. It can spread to the liver and the liver, lungs, bone, and brain. And
It can go to liver.
Yes, sir.
Why will it go to liver?
Because the spread is hematogenous spread, sir. From the
So why liver? Why not spleen? Why not other kidney? That is more vascular than liver.
If we see the it can goes to the other organs also, sir. If we see the venous drainage is the splenic artery along with the superior mesenteric vein. It leads to the formation of portal vein. So by the portal vein it can
So portal vein doesn't drain this. Renal vein is joining to the IVC. Portal vein, however, portal vein comes in
in the
picture.
right side, on the left side, on the right side, sir, this renal vein is draining into the IVC, and if we see the course of the IVC in the liver, so hepatic vein is draining into the IVC.
So what? This is not the intestinal organ where it will go to portal vein and then go to liver. This is going directly to the chest. It will go directly to heart. So where you will get the metastasis?
In RCC, we usually see the metastasis in the lung, sir. Lung is the most common.
Yeah. Where else?
So after lung, we can see the metastasis in the brain, sir.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
And bony metastasis also, sir.
Okay. So in this, once the metastatic workup is normal, you want to do radical nephrectomy.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
So in radical nephrectomy, you remove those structures which you have said.
Yes, sir.
What about the lymph nodes? You said only hilar lymph node.
So by looking this CT scan, sir, there is no visible lymph nodes are there in the CT scan. So according to the trials, if there is no need to remove the lymph nodes in the radical nephrectomy because there is no overall survival benefit is there by removing these lymph nodes. So the indication of removing lymph nodes,
Survival benefit is not there.
there is no extra added benefit to remove these
So
lymph
why
nodes.
you want to remove hilar lymph node?
So we are not going to remove that hilar lymph nodes. Whatever the lymph nodes which are come with the specimen, that is fair enough, sir. And if on CT there is enlarged lymph nodes are there, visible lymph nodes are there, I will remove that particular lymph node, sir.
Why?
Because if we remove
There is no survival benefit.
but if the lymph node is clear-cut visible, sir, that help in the proper staging of the disease, and I can explain the patient to the proper what is the prognosis.
Okay. All right. So you don't want to remove the full lymph nodes because there is no survival benefit.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Suppose this report comes as the pathological PT2 D. PT1B.
Yes, sir.
No lymph nodes identified in the specimen and clear cell carcinoma.
Yes, sir.
Margins of the tumor is free.
Yes, sir.
So what does it mean?
So it is T1B with nuclear grade 3, sir. So patient is cured by the disease, but I will want to keep this patient under follow-up. So first of all, I want my pathologist to ask whether there is any necrosis is there in this specimen or not, any sarcomatoid features are there or not. Because if sarcomatoid features are present, that indicates poor prognosis of the disease.
Whatever is written, it is written.
Okay, sir. So in this case, I will explain the patient that the 5-year survival of this particular.
Suppose you have removed the kidney.
Yes, sir.
But when you are removing the kidney at one point in the lower pole on the
Yes.
posterior side, the psoas is adherent and you had to really go into the psoas
Yes, sir.
and then remove the whole thing, and there the margins are positive
Yes, sir.
at lower pole. This where there was infiltration in the psoas. At that level, margins are positive.
Yes, sir.
So this is a report. What will you do?
So first of all, I want to confirm whether it was R0 resection or not. So if
So
we
you
are,
have removed everything now, but margins have come positive. That's
so
what I'm telling you.
so we are completely remove the tumor, but margins are positive.
Yeah.
So we want to see whether this margin is focal margin positive or
At lower pole, there is a margin positive. What do you mean by focal?
yes, sir. So if the only lower
So
pole,
there is nothing like focal. This is not a prostate.
yes, sir. So in that case, we can follow this patient, and usually with this pathology, with nuclear grade 3, I will use to do CT scan at 6 month follow up. I would like to do CT scan, and if there is recurrence there, in that case, I have to go and resect that recurrence, sir.
So you don't want to do anything. If the margins are positive, just follow up, and then at the end of 6 months, you do CT scan.
If the margins are positive, but we are very sure that we have completely removed the tumor, and there is margin is positive only. In that case, sir, immediately there is no need to do. But in that case, I will counsel the patient that there is margin is positive. I will do early CT scan in this particular patient.
Early
And
means 6 months.
at 3 months we can do, sir.
3 months.
Yes, sir.
Why not 1 month?
So 1 month
That's
is
early, no?
1 month is very less time, sir. Whatever the
Less time for what?
so we have to at 3 months there is adequate time to grow the any recurrence which is there.
It's not recurrence. Are you worried about recurrence?
Any residual, sir.
So if there is a residual mass with nuclear grade 3
Yes, sir.
and patient has come with such huge tumor infiltrating psoas, how much time it takes to grow?
It can grow within 4 weeks early.
It can grow fast, it can go to metastasis also.
Yes, sir.
So what is your idea in a situation like this? What is your objective of doing all these things?
So my idea is to pick up the early residual disease which is there and to go and resect that, because otherwise it can metastasize, sir.
Correct. If there is any focal, if there is a lower polar margin positive,
Yes,
can you give targeted therapy?
so targeted.
You have already done surgery. You thought that everything is out, but margin is positive. He has recovered. Now you know that obviously margin positive means there is some residual tumor. So can you give targeted therapy?
So
Yeah, post-op.
if we see the randomized control trials, there are 2 trials. One is the Assure trial and second is the Protect trial. And in these trials, if we give the targeted therapy like sorafenib, sunitinib or pazopanib, there is no overall survival benefit is there. So better is to go resect. Whatever, if the resection is possible, better to go and resect that, sir.
Why there is no benefit?
It is the randomized control trial, sir. The result of randomized control trial is
No, result, but why there is no benefit? There has to be some discussion, no? If there is some result which has come in, you have to have understanding why such result has come in. Just because some trial has shown this is the result, doesn't mean that result is there, so now don't ask me. Go and ask that person who has done trial. Why there is no benefit? What is the idea of giving, in which cases you will go targeted therapy in a post-operative setting?
Yes, sir. In post-operative setting, the targeted therapy is given like in the cases where there is already, we have done the cytoreductive nephrectomy. If the patient is having a case of high primary burden of the disease very high and a solid and a metastasis is there in the lungs, in that case we can do the cytoreductive nephrectomy first, and followed by we can do the targeted therapy in that case.
Okay, so in those cases you will give.
Yes, sir.
Why you want to do, suppose this patient, everything same, and he has got a metastasis in the lung, which are there on both sides.
Yes, sir.
Total metastasis in both sides lungs.
Yes, sir.
Would your approach have changed?
So
Same tumor, same local, same, everything same,
yes, sir.
except chest CT shows there are 2 nodules on the left side and 2 on the right side.
Yes, sir. So if the first of all I want to see the what is the time when these occurrences occur, reoccurrences
No,
occur.
at the presentation only.
So okay,
I'm
sir.
telling you, this is a same patient,
Yes, sir.
but you do metastatic workup and X-ray shows metastasis. We have done chest CT, which has shown that there are two metastases on each side.
Yes, sir. In that case, because it is suggestive of it is a enhancing lesion, in that case also I will proceed with radical nephrectomy, sir. And after there is two metastatic nodules are there, so I will not do any resection of that nodule. I will do radical nephrectomy. We'll see the histopathology. If it is clear cell carcinoma, in that case I will consider for targeted therapy in that case, sir.
Why is like that?
Because the indication of because the resection is beneficial if it is single nodule is there and low burden is there. So if it is a high burden disease,
No, why you want to take out the kidney? Can straight away start targeted therapy.
so the reason behind this is if we will do cytoreductive nephrectomy first, in that case, first of all, the immune response is better. It is seen that immune response is better if we do cytoreductive nephrectomy first. If we not do cytoreductive nephrectomy straightforward,
Are you depending on immune system or you are giving targeted
no, sir.
therapy?
If we not do cytoreductive nephrectomy and start the patient on targeted therapy, it is seen that the response of targeted therapy is less in that cases because of the suppression of the T cell function by the primary tumor. So if we remove the primary tumor and then we start the targeted therapy, it is seen that response of the T cell will be better in those cases. So it is better to remove the kidney, sir.
So what is the current trend?
Current trend is there are two trials. One is the Carmina trial and the second is Certime trial. The Carmina trial has shown it is a non-inferiority trial, which suggests that there is no role of cytoreductive nephrectomy, but the drawback of this trial is it included only the intermediate and the poor risk patient. So in the SWOG trial, which suggests that the cytoreductive nephrectomy is beneficial only in the good risk patient. So if the patient is having good performance status is good, in that cases cytoreductive nephrectomy can be done. But the Carmina trial
No,
only
can be done. So what is the logic of doing in a good risk case? Does it increase the survival?
Yes,
What
sir.
is the benefit?
Benefit is that if we do the cytoreductive nephrectomy, sir, the response of the immune therapy will be much better as compared to the if we directly go for the
So
immune therapy.
if the performance status is poor, then survival is poor. If performance status is good, survival is good.
So
Is it that?
So for that, sir, there is a risk stratification, that is IMDC, International Metastatic RCC Database Consortium. There are 6 components in that. That is, first is the hemoglobin.
No, don't tell all that.
Yes, sir.
It's not required.
Yes, sir. So in that, according to that, we can, it is not only the performance status, we have to see all these. Performance status is bad, it indicates patient is not fit for surgery. But if the other factors are also there, that patient comes under intermediate or
In
poor
a
risk.
fit patient,
Yes, sir.
you are saying that cytoreductive nephrectomy should be done, even if there is a metastasis.
Yes, sir. If it is a good,
And if the patient is not fit,
No,
then
good.
it is better to give targeted therapy.
If the patient comes under intermediate or poor risk category according to IMDC, in that case, I will plan for the targeted therapy or immune checkpoint inhibitor, sir. If it is a good risk candidate, then better to go for.
So I think we'll take some questions. If there are some questions. There are some questions which have come up. How to explain patient with a renal mass, chronology of differential diagnosis. No, renal mass, I think what he said, the chronology is correct. Explain pain with the renal mass. Okay, the pain in the case of a renal mass, there are multiple reasons. The first and foremost reason is there is a stretch on the capsule, and when there is a capsular stretch, they get dull aching pain, and therefore that is a reason for pain. Secondly, sometimes they have the when there is a hematuria, the PC system gets distended, and therefore there is a pain. Sometimes there is a bleeding in the subcapsular region, and then they get pain. Sometimes they get clot colic, and that's the cause for the pain. Sometimes there is a severe hemorrhage as they bleed inside. There is a hemorrhage outside in the perinephric space, and then there is a pain. So these are all various causes of pain with the renal mass in the chronological order. So chronology of DD in this case, the chronology of DD in this case would be, I think what he has discussed is right, that first diagnosis would be stone, because that's a very common thing. But looking at 55 years age, next you can keep as a malignancy. And then of course all other causes, ADPKD, tuberculosis, and all what we discussed. Use of, can we give AVM yes, we can give definitely vascular malformation as one of the DD, and that we discuss also. That sometimes the rare case, the vascular malformations is there without any reason, and that can cause hematuria, that can cause bleeding, and that can cause pain. Use of USG if we are anyway going to do CT scan. Now USG is definitely required because USG will guide you as to what sort of CT scan you are doing. Suppose patient has come with hematuria, in any case he is going to require, whatever is the cause, he is going to require CT scan, but that does not mean that you omit ultrasonography, because ultrasonography will give idea whether it is a bladder mass. If there is a bladder mass, your type of CT which you are doing is different. If it is a renal mass, small renal mass, the type of CT which you are going to do is different. If it is a big renal mass, suggesting the infiltration into the renal vein and thrombus in the IVC, then the type of CT scan which you are going to do is a different. So just because there is a hematuria and you are, in any case you are going to do CT scan, does not mean that you omit ultrasonography. Should cytology be done only after USC? Yes, it is quite a good idea, and he answered that question, that cytology can be done, because if it is a clear-cut RCC which is causing that, then you may omit the cytology also. But it is not such a big issue. It's a non-invasive test. Even if you tell cytology as a workup, nobody is going to quarrel with you. X-ray QB in patient with hematuria. X-ray QB can be advised, but as now ultrasound and CT scan is being developed, I think X-ray QB, the yield and everything is going to go down. So X-ray QB per se is not going to help you much. Triphasic CT scan is the correct answer. It is a better answer. What is the renal protocol, CT, oral contrast or not? If it is a renal cell, as we discussed, it's a RCC which you are suspecting, then there is no need to give oral contrast except in a situation which I discussed. Otherwise, IV contrast is fair enough. And as Vikas also pointed out, that if you want to really differentiate the lymph nodes, then you need to give oral contrast, because sometimes the bowel wall can be mistaken for lymph nodes, and therefore you want to differentiate. A difference between the nephrogenic versus corticomedullary venous phase. No, basically nephrogenic phase and corticomedullary venous phase is is that on the nephrogenic phase you want to see the outline and surface of the kidney, whereas in artery and venous you want to see washout, you want to see the pulling, you want to see the neovascularity. So that is what is required. Can PG comment on the sinus? Yeah, if you are seeing the if you are given the plates in which it is very clear, then definitely you can comment upon, but obviously you are going to see the report from the radiologist also. Meds before metastatic workup, obviously you have to do metastatic workup before you do nephrectomy, is very much required. Any specific reason for metastasis in liver? No, it is just see, if there is an intestinal tumor, then liver metastasis is common, because the drainage is through the portal vein, and portal vein goes into the liver, and that is how the metastasis from the intestines very commonly are seen in the liver. But in RCC, and when there is a generalized vascular spread, the liver metastasis, and this is like any other organ. I mean, they can go to the any other organ, similar way they can land up with liver. With RCC and all other things, why it is common in the chest? Because ultimately the blood is going to go into the IVC. From there it is going to go to the chest, and from there it is carried everywhere. So the first the tumor which can lodge in any organ is a lung. So lung is common in every organ. What is the
Root criteria.
what is the
Bluet's
Bluet's criteria? So you want to answer
Yes,
that?
sir. So Bluth criteria is for the lymph node dissection if the mass is more than 10 centimeter, if there are visible lymph nodes on the CT scan, and third, if it is a locally advanced tumor, that is thrombus is there or not. If there is thrombus, locally advanced tumor, and prior to the cytoreductive nephrectomy, and if we have taken prior biopsy, and if there is sarcomatoid features are there or in biopsy or necrosis is there. If two or more features are there, in that case this Bluth criteria is there. In that case, we have to do the lymph node dissection.
Bone scan and blood investigation for metastasis, creatinine, ESR, yeah, all these investigations can be done. If the patient is not fit for surgery, then yes, if patient is not fit for surgery, then if the tumor is still localized, then you have to assess what is the risk, because removing the tumor can potentially offer a cure for him. But if he has a lot of cardiac problems and if he is not fit, his life expectancy is very poor for anesthesia risk, then you can just do biopsy and confirm whether it is a clear cell, and then you can start targeted therapy also. Role of RT if margins are positive. I don't think there is any role for RT if margins are positive. In the RCC, if the margins are positive and if there is no tumor anywhere else, you have to do second attempt to clear up that margin. You can go in again and then excise whatever is there, and therefore the timing of CT scan actually depends on how much tissue you think has left behind. If you have left considerable amount of tissue which is inadvertent, you thought that everything is removed, but the margin is positive, then you can go ahead and do it. But suppose the tumor was inoperable, you have just, it was very difficult, it was going behind the veins, and knowingly, because of the difficulty of removing, you have gone through the tumor, obviously there is no question of going in again. So in that case, you accept that there is a residual tumor and then treat with the targeted therapy. Would risk stratification matters patient?
MSKCC
Would risk stratify METs re-risk?
So
What is that?
there are two risk stratifications, sir, MSKCC and IMDC. So we follow IMDC. In the recent EAU guidelines, it is the IMDC, International Metastatic RCC Database Consortium. You have to see the all 6 components and then risk stratify the patient.
Okay. What is lazy phenomenon? I don't know what is lazy phenomenon. You find out and then you tell me next time. So with that, I think we come to the end. Most of the questions, whatever have come through the chat window, we have addressed to it. Once again, thank you very much.